There is no way I can review Pulp Fiction with a censor on, so if swearing upsets or offends you, then I'm sorry, this review just isn't for you. I tell you what, for every swear word in this review, I will donate 50p to charity. Quentin Tarantino's classic film from 1994 is the next selection for the Film Review Open Challenge, and like Snatch, I don't have a lot of memories with this, despite owning this one on DVD. I know it's a collection of stories, it's bloody, it's brutal, and the cast, oh fuck me the cast. Uma Thurman, Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, Ving Rhames, John Travolta, and many more besides. It's another Oscar-laden movie with 7 nominations and 1 win, so I'm in for a treat, right? Here's my review of Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction starts with 2 robbers who name each other Honey Bunny and Pumpkin deciding whether to rob the diner they're in. They go ahead and the credits roll. We then meet Vincent and Jules on their way to Brad's apartment. They've been sent by Marcellus Wallace to retrieve a case with something in it. Jules, after giving an epic speech culminating in quoting Ezekiel 25:17, kills Brad. Next up, we see a boxer named Butch being convinced to throw his next fight by Marcellus Wallace. Jules and Vincent arrive dressed a lot more casually than we saw earlier. They discuss the upcoming evening when Vincent is to take out Marcellus's wife Mia whilst Marcellus is out of town. Before picking her up, he stops off to get some extra strength heroin from his dealer Lance, and then goes to pick up Mia, who herself is snorting cocaine. After an evening of awkward conversation, the two win a twist competition and go back to her place. While Vince is in the bathroom, Mia finds his heroin and mistakes it for cocaine. Vince now finds himself in deep shit as he finds Mia passed out, foaming at the mouth and dying, and given Marcel's reputation for throwing people from balconies for giving a foot massage, Vince panics and takes her to Lance, who injects her with a huge needle full of adrenaline to revive her. Vince and Mia agree not to speak of this again and wish each other good night. In a flashback, Butch is visited by a POW friend of his father who's passing on his gold watch to Butch, but goes into great detail about how he and Butch's father hid the watch in their arses for years at a time. Back in the present, Butch reneges on his deal with Marcellus after betting on himself. He plans to leave town with his partner Fabienne, but in clearing out the apartment, she's forgotten his watch. Butch understandably flips out and risks everything to sneak back and get it. It goes well, even catching Vincent off guard and killing him with his semi-automatic. Just as he goes to meet Fabienne, he literally runs into Marcellus with his car before being sideswiped himself. The two brawl until they end up in a pawn shop. The owner knocks out Butch and Marcellus passes out. They wake up with a ball gag in their mouths and tied up. The owner, who calls himself Spider, calls Zed over and the two take Marcellus into the back room and proceed to rape him. Butch escapes, knocking out the Gimp watching over him, and instead of escaping, decides to take a katana to kill Spider and wound Zed. Marcellus tells Butch about how he and his best men are about to fuck Zed up. He tells Butch to leave town and never come back. Butch takes Zed's chopper, picks up Fabienne, and leaves town. We go back to Vincent and Jules just before Jules kills Brad. They're shot at by a hidden person at the apartment who somehow misses both Jules and Vincent with 6 shots. The professionals, on the other hand, don't miss, and take Marvin, the only person left of the 4 originally in the apartment, back to Marcellus. Alas, en route, Vincent accidentally shoots Marvin in the head in the car, making a huge mess. They go around to Jimmy's place, who's understandably upset at the hitman showing up unannounced with a headless body in the car, as his wife Bonnie will be home soon. Jules calls Marcellus, who calls Winston Wolf. In no time, Winston manages to get the car cleaned, Vincent and Jules change into the casual attire we saw earlier, and everyone away from Jimmy's place to a scrapyard in plenty of time. Jules and Vincent head over to a diner for breakfast, and while Jules considers quitting Marcellus' employment, Vincent heads to the bathroom. It's at this point that Honey Bunny and Pumpkin, remember them, rob the diner, with Jules managing to get into a standoff, holding Pumpkin at gunpoint whilst Honey Bunny panics and holds Jules at gunpoint. Jules gives a speech about how he would normally kill them both, but the events of the day have made him reconsider his life and the Ezekiel 25:17 quote. He has Pumpkin fish out his wallet that says "bad motherfucker," take the cash and leave. The film then ends with Jules and Vincent leaving to deliver the case to Marcellus. The story of Pulp Fiction is told in what you might consider an unorthodox order. The chronological order would be Jules and Vincent visiting Brad's apartment, the Bonnie situation, the diner robbery, the date with Mia, and the gold watch. There's a semblance of an explanation with the definition of pulp at the beginning of the movie, but it can lead to some confusing moments, such as Vincent getting shot in the gold watch, and then appearing in later stories which take place earlier chronologically. I question why Vincent had to be killed here, and not say an unnamed goon to avoid this. That said, the overall arc does work broken into these many chapters. For me, it's an interesting idea that wouldn't work in many films. It kind of reminds me of those English exercises in school where you have to rearrange the storyboard to make a story. I like the stories individually, none are too in-depth, and you can watch one and move on to the next one with no kind of loss whatsoever. To pad out these stories though, there are a load of conversations which, although realistic, don't seem to add anything to the grander story. I don't really care what a quarter pounder with cheese is called in France, or conversations about whether a foot massage is foreplay, or what constitutes a $5 shake, though that one in particular reminds me of my recent first visit to Five Guys. I talk a lot of bollocks with friends at work or on the phone, but none of it is important enough for the inevitable biopic there will be about the rise of Bradley J. It's filler, pure and simple. As I said earlier, the story works, but I don't see a reason for this film being mixed up in the order it was. In the right order, the ending shot would have been Butch and Fabienne riding into the sunset, and I think that's a better ending. Also, what's in the case? The only clues we have is that it makes people speechless, glows gold, and it's beautiful. I mean, what could it be? Theories include the diamonds from Reservoir Dogs, radioactive materials, or Marcellus Wallace's soul, but I'm not sure about that. Characters too are very one note, with the sole exception being Jules, played brilliantly by Samuel L. Jackson. His whole philosophy and character development is well summed up in his conversation with Pumpkin. He quotes Ezekiel 25:17 when he's about to kill someone, but after the morning he's had and the potential miracle he's been part of, he reconsiders his way of life and even why he uses that particular quote. Other characters may be one note, but that's not to say that they're not interesting. Winston Wolfe in particular is very engaging, showing urgency without losing his cool and seemingly enjoying himself at certain points. It's no wonder he ended up being hired by an insurance company.
Judith, Keith, you're on your way home from holiday. To find yourselves going no further than the car park.
Yeah, that's right.
Tony here knows where you live, and he's gonna take the two of you for a little ride.
I've heard Fabienne being called a fucking annoying French bird, but honestly, she's not that bad.
Potbellies make a man look either oafish or like a gorilla.
Okay, I take it back, she's the worst. It's interesting when you have a think about it though, there are no real clear-cut heroes and villains. Everyone does bad things, and most get their comeuppance in some sort of way. Fabienne may be the closest to an innocent party, but since she said that whole thing about bellies on men, she's a villain, so fuck her. I like some of the directorial choices by Quentin Tarantino. Not shelling Marcellus's face for a long time to build up his aura and enigma is a smart move, and the fact that even after you see him raped by Zed, the next story, set early in the day, goes back to a behind-the-head shot concealing his face. I also liked Butch sneaking back into and out of his apartment in almost a one-shot over-the-shoulder camera angle, though it kind of reminded me of Metal Gear. Music is a big part of what makes this film memorable, and Quentin Tarantino has been quoted as saying he wanted to use a surfer rock kind of soundtrack. For the most part, this works quite well, mainly that opening track Mizzaloo by Dick Dale in his Deltas. Dick is his name, you can't charge me for that one. Mizzaloo is the most memorable track in the film, and it stands out a mile. Most of the rest works with a couple of exceptions, but you think of Pulp Fiction, you think of that track. You cannot deny Pulp Fiction's impact on popular culture. Like any other grand films featured in the Film Review Open Challenge, it has been spoofed and memed to death. It's the mark of a cinematic classic, but unfortunately I just don't see it that way. I enjoyed it, but I found myself getting distracted at parts, mainly due to those conversations about nothing and the disjointed story. I'll probably watch it again sometime, but as far as I'm concerned, the only pulp I'm interested in is in my orange juice. Next up for the Film Review Open Challenge is The Goonies. Until then though, thank you very much for watching.